It was a moment that silenced an entire auditorium. In the middle of a grand public event, as the lights flashed and applause thundered, President Ibrahim Traoré leaned in close to Queen Latifah and whispered something that only she could hear. No microphones picked it up, no cameras caught it, but everyone witnessed what happened next. Queen Latifah, moments earlier radiating strength after delivering a powerful speech on resilience and unity, suddenly broke down in tears. The audience gasped, stunned by the raw emotion pouring out of a woman known for her calm confidence. What could he have possibly said? In that instant, the atmosphere shifted. Flashing cameras, murmurs of excitement, and hearts hanging on the unspoken words that had moved her so deeply. Traoré, standing with a presence both strong and gentle, had offered her something more powerful than the applause. A private truth, a quiet respect, a reminder that even icons from different worlds can meet in shared vulnerability. And that single whispered moment quickly went viral, leaving the world in awe of how silence itself can speak louder than speeches. The moment felt unreal, as if the world had stopped breathing. Tears welled in Queen Latifah's eyes, and she quickly covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head as though the words she had just heard were too heavy to believe. The crowd froze in stunned silence. Cameras zoomed closer, catching every trembling detail, while millions watching across the globe leaned forward in shock. "What could he have said?" whispered a reporter from the front row, echoing the question on everyone's mind. Within seconds, her tears spilled freely, her composure slipping despite her effort to hold on. Beside her, President Ibrahim Traoré remained still and dignified, his hand pressed gently against his heart, offering silent support without intrusion. The hall, once alive with cheers and electricity, now felt transformed into a sacred space. Hushed, reverent and waiting. No one knew whether to clap, cry, or simply hold their breath. Phones lit up across the audience, recording the unforgettable moment as the atmosphere thickened into an emotional silence that spoke louder than words ever could. Social media had already exploded with speculation. What did President Traoré whisper to Queen Latifah? On stage, she finally found her voice, though it quivered with emotion. Turning toward him, her eyes searched his with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. You don't know what that means to me," she whispered, her words barely caught by the microphone. Traoré simply gave a gentle nod, choosing not to repeat himself. His gaze alone carried the weight of a message meant only for her, as if to say, "This moment belongs to you." The host, visibly uneasy, stepped forward. "Queen Latifah, are you okay?" She nodded, even as tears streamed down her face. "I've never been this moved," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Not in all my years of standing on a stage." The audience erupted into applause, many reduced to tears themselves, though none of them knew what had been said. It wasn't the words that shook the room, it was the sheer power of sincerity, raw and unfiltered, that everyone had just witnessed. Across living rooms and phones worldwide, viewers leaned in closer to their screens, gripped by a mystery too powerful to ignore. What could possibly bring a woman as strong and composed as Queen Latifah to tears with just a whisper? By the time she and President Traoré stepped off the stage, the internet had already erupted. Timelines overflowed with clips of her sudden breakdown, headlines screaming, "A whisper worth 1,000 speeches," and "Traoré moves Queen Latifah to tears." News outlets replayed the moment in slow motion, dissecting every glance, every flicker of emotion, searching for answers. Commentators speculated endlessly. Some swore it was a shared memory, others believed it was about her late mother, whom she had often spoken of with love, while a few insisted it must have been a universal message of hope in dark times. But only Queen Latifah knew the truth. Backstage, as she wiped her eyes, a reporter pressed desperately, "Please, Queen, can you tell us what the president said?" She dabbed her eyes gently with a tissue, her voice soft but firm. "Not tonight," she whispered. "Some words, they're not meant for the world, at least not yet." Her answer only deepened the mystery. Meanwhile, President Ibrahim Traoré moved quietly through the room, shaking hands with staff, his presence steady, calm, yet undeniably commanding. Those who met his gaze later said it felt as though he carried both the weight of a nation and the warmth of a lifelong friend. Still, the world was left aching for answers. Inside the hall, a restless buzz filled the air as Queen Latifah tried to gather herself. People leaned forward, phones raised high, desperate to capture every second. Traoré remained composed, his eyes fixed gently on her, as though offering a wordless reassurance only she could understand. A journalist, unable to contain her curiosity, whispered to her colleague, "That wasn't just small talk. Did you see her reaction?" Another voice in the audience whispered, "He said something life-changing. You don't cry like that for nothing." Queen Latifah stepped back from the podium, wiping her tears as the crowd suddenly rose to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation. They didn't even know why they clapped, only that the weight of the moment demanded it. Backstage, in a quieter corner, a close friend leaned in and asked softly, "What did he say to you?" Latifah's voice trembled as she shook her head. "I can't repeat it. Not yet. But it felt like he looked straight into my soul." Meanwhile, Traoré avoided the spotlight. He offered a few calm words of thanks to the organizers, then slipped away with his small security team. No interviews, no explanations. Yet his quiet departure somehow amplified the mystery, leaving the room thick with unanswered questions. To those present, it felt as if they had just witnessed history unfold, yet only been allowed to glimpse half of its truth. Outside, cameras swarmed, but the silence only made the moment echo louder. No one yet knew the words powerful enough to shake a queen. By morning, the clip had swept across the globe, dominating every feed and timeline. Hashtags blazed at the top of the charts. Traoré whisper, Queen Latifah tears, moment of truth. On Instagram, a fan wrote, "Never seen Queen Latifah break down like that. Respect to President Traoré. That was powerful." Twitter exploded with theories, some insisting he had spoken of her late mother, others guessing he shared a piece of his own struggles in Burkina Faso, and a few convinced he had whispered a blessing. Through it all, Queen Latifah stayed silent, breaking her silence only once, with a black and white photo of her clasped hands captioned simply, "Some words change everything." That single post only fanned the flames of speculation. News anchors dissected every angle, every possibility. It's rare, one remarked, to see two icons from such completely different worlds connect so deeply in a single instant. But beyond all the noise of theories and speculation, something deeper lingered, a strange sense of unity. Even without knowing the words, millions confessed they were moved to tears simply by watching the moment unfold. As the world debated, Ibrahim Traoré was already on a plane to his next meeting, calm, composed, and focused. Yet those closest to him noticed how often his gaze drifted to the clouds outside the window, as if replaying the moment in silence. Whatever he had whispered, it clearly weighed on him too. 2 days later, Queen Latifah finally gathered the courage to reach out. She dialed the secure number he had given her after the event, her hand trembling slightly. When his voice came, through calm, steady, unmistakable, her throat tightened. "Your Excellency," she began softly, I haven't stopped thinking about what you told me." There was a pause, then his gentle reply, "I meant every word." "It wasn't meant to burden you," Traoré said gently, "but to remind you." Tears welled in, Queen Latifah's eyes once more. "You couldn't have known how much I needed to hear that," she whispered. "It was like you spoke to a wound I never admitted I still carried." His voice was calm, steady. "I didn't need to know the details. Sometimes the soul recognizes what words cannot explain." A long silence followed, just the sound of their quiet breathing, two souls unexpectedly bound by a truth beyond language. Finally, Queen Latifah broke the hush. "The world keeps asking what you said. I don't know if I should tell them." Traoré paused before answering. "When the time is right, you'll know. Until then, let the silence speak." And with that, The mystery grew deeper, yet somehow more beautiful. By the third day, journalists were already swearing they had uncovered the real story. One outlet boldly claimed Traoré had whispered a political message. Another insisted it was about Latifah's acting legacy, yet none of the theories explained the raw tears that had streamed down her face. Fans dissected the clip endlessly, slowing it down frame by frame, attempting to read lips, even consulting self-proclaimed experts. Still, the words remained hidden. Queen Latifah kept her silence, despite relentless pressure from talk shows, and news anchors urging her to reveal the truth. "The world deserves to know," one popular host declared, but deep down she knew it wasn't the right time. Her quiet refusal only deepened the desperation. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré carried on with his duties, visiting schools, encouraging young leaders, embodying strength. Yet his staff couldn't help but notice the gentle smile that would appear whenever his phone buzzed. Most times, it was a short, private message from Queen Latifah, proof that she carried with her a secret flame, a memory still too sacred to share with the world. The world speculated endlessly, but only the two of them knew the truth. The whispered words carried a weight too deep to be shared, at least not yet. And the more people guessed, the more powerful the silence itself became. That evening, Queen Latifah sat curled on her couch, scrolling through thousands of desperate comments on her social media. "Please tell us what he said. Your tears gave me chills. Don't leave us hanging." She set the phone down and exhaled heavily. For years, she had been the strong one, the performer, the fighter, the steady presence others leaned on. But Traoré's words had pierced through the armor, touching a wound she had long buried and never truly healed. Her best friend called, voice gentle and worried. "Dana," she said, using Latifah's real name softly, "you're not yourself. You've been crying at night. What's going on?" "I can't explain it," Latifah whispered, her voice unsteady. "It's like he saw through every wall I've built. And the worst part? He was right." Her friend stayed quiet for a moment, before gently replying, "Maybe it's time to share it, not for the world, but for yourself." Latifah closed her eyes, the weight of it pressing down. She thought of the millions waiting, of the countless hearts moved by a moment they didn't even understand. Maybe, just maybe, it was time. The next morning, Queen Latifah picked up her phone, hands trembling, but this time she didn't hesitate. The line clicked, and Traoré's calm voice greeted her. "Good morning, my sister." She drew in a sharp breath, tears forming before she could speak. "Mr. President, I think I need to tell them. The world keeps asking. I can't carry this alone anymore," Latifah admitted, her voice shaking. On the other end, there was a pause before Traoré's warm, steady voice flowed through. "If you choose to share, make sure it comes from peace, not pressure. The world may be ready, but are you ready?" Her lips trembled. "Yes, because what you told me, it could change lives. It already changed mine." His tone softened, almost like a blessing. "Then let it be so. Truth has power only when spoken at the right time." When the call ended, Latifah wiped her tears, her chest tight with both fear and hope. That evening, with trembling fingers, she tweeted, "Tomorrow, I will share what President Traoré told me. Some truths are too powerful to keep silent." Within minutes, the internet exploded, timelines flooding with anticipation. The world was holding its breath. On the eve of her long-awaited reveal, Queen Latifah found herself unable to sleep. She paced back and forth in her room, thoughts racing faster than her steps. By morning, cameras would be fixed on her, millions of eyes waiting for the words only she could deliver. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, she whispered, "What if they don't understand? What if they twist it?" Her phone buzzed suddenly, a short message from President Traoré. "Speak from the heart. Truth protects itself." She closed her eyes, clutching the phone like an anchor. Those simple words steadied her trembling spirit. And across the ocean in Burkina Faso, Traoré too was awake, standing silently at his window, watching the stillness of the night, as if he already knew the storm tomorrow would bring. He wasn't nervous for himself, he was praying for her. President Traoré understood how cruel the world could be toward vulnerability, yet he also knew the unstoppable force of honesty. By midnight, global news outlets had already launched. Live countdowns, social media pulsed with burning hashtags. What did he say? And Latifah speaks. Tomorrow would not be just another day. Tomorrow, the world would hear a truth no one had expected. The hall brimmed with anticipation. Journalists crowded every corner, cameras locked onto the podium, while millions more sat glued to their screens, hearts racing. Slowly, Queen Latifah stepped onto the stage, dressed simply yet radiantly, her presence commanding the room. There was no music, no spectacle, only silence, the kind so heavy it seemed to press down on every breath. She looked out at the sea of faces before her, the weight of history resting on her shoulders. A few days ago, she began softly, her voice trembling, President Ibrahim Traoré whispered something to me that shook me to my core. Gasps rippled through the audience like a wave. She paused, her throat tightening, her eyes already glossy. I cried. Not because I was sad, but because, for the first time in a very long time, I felt truly seen. Her voice broke, and the audience leaned forward, holding their breath. But before I share what he said, I need you to understand. Words like his don't come from politics. They come from the heart, from a soul that believes in humanity, in love, and in dignity for all people. By now, the crowd was teary-eyed, suspense stretching heavy in the air. What could Traoré have whispered to bring Queen Latifah to tears? She inhaled deeply, silence pressing against her chest. The room was so quiet, even the buzz of the cameras seemed deafening. And then, at last, she spoke. He whispered, "The world knows you as a queen on stage. But I see you as a sister, a fighter, and a light for those who believe they've been forgotten." Her voice cracked, tears spilling freely down her cheeks. And then she delivered the words that silenced the world. Even if the world forgets your worth, God never will. The auditorium froze in stunned stillness. Journalists lowered their cameras, some quietly wiping their own eyes. Latifah pressed her hand against her chest. "Those words broke me open," she confessed, "because for years I've smiled in public while secretly battling pain in private." He reminded me, and all of us, that we are more than the roles we play. Online, the floodgates burst open. Comments poured in, "I'm crying right now." This is the most powerful thing I've ever heard. Respect to President Traoré. The world finally had its answer. And yet, it felt less like the end of a mystery, and more like the beginning of something greater. Within hours of Queen Latifah's revelation, the internet ignited. Clips of her trembling voice and tear-filled eyes flooded every feed, replayed millions of times across every platform. Hashtags like I Tie Traoré, Whisper, and Latifah Tears dominated the global conversation. News anchors called it one of the most moving public moments in years. In New York, a group of teenagers huddled in a school library, watching the clip over and over. One girl whispered, "Did you hear what he told her? That's the kind of respect we all deserve." Another wiped her eyes, murmuring, "I wish someone would see me like that." Thousands of miles away in Burkina Faso, community centers overflowed with people gathered around projectors, watching together. Elders nodded with pride, while young men and women stood in silence, many with tears streaking their faces. And through it all, President Traoré himself remained quiet, declining interviews, letting the moment speak louder than he ever could. His aide said quietly, "He meant every word." The world was moved, not by politics, not by fame, but by something rare, genuine human connection. Yet as the video continued to spread, something even more unexpected unfolded. The next morning, a journalist revealed that Queen Latifah had received a sealed letter from President Traoré the night before the event, a detail she hadn't mentioned in her speech. Within hours, the rumor caught fire. What was inside the letter? Was it tied to the whisper? Speculation raced across the globe. Later that evening, Queen Latifah confirmed its existence herself. On her social media, she posted a picture of the unopened envelope with a simple caption. "Some truths are too sacred for headlines, but soon, I'll share." The world erupted into a frenzy. Millions speculated wildly. Was it a call to action, a personal confession, or something even greater? A personal message? A hidden confession? Alone in her hotel room, Latifah finally unfolded the letter. Her tears fell onto the page as she whispered to herself, "How can one man's words carry so much weight?" Carefully, she refolded it and placed it on the nightstand. Tomorrow, she would decide whether the world was ready to know. Later that evening, before their schedules pulled them apart, Latifah requested a private meeting with President Traoré. No cameras, no journalists, just the two of them in a quiet room. When he entered, she rose to greet him, her eyes still swollen from tears. "Why me?" she asked softly, her voice fragile. Traoré's smile was gentle but firm. "Because sometimes the right words must find the right heart." Latifah lifted the letter between them, her hand trembling. "The world is waiting," she whispered. "Should I tell them?" she asked quietly. He shook his head. "Not for me, not for you, but for them, the ones who need hope more than we'll ever know." A heavy silence followed. At last, she reached out and clasped his hand, her nod saying more than words could. What neither realized was that just outside the door, a staff member's phone accidentally captured the muffled sound of her breaking down again in gratitude. That short, unplanned clip leaked online within hours, fueling the fire. By morning, the world's obsession had reached a fever pitch. What was in the letter? The tension was unbearable, millions glued to their screens. Finally, Queen Latifah announced she would address both the whispers and the mysterious letter in a live broadcast. When the camera lights flicked on, her face appeared calm, but her eyes revealed the weight of sleepless nights and a truth too powerful to ignore. She held the folded letter in her trembling hands, her voice unsteady as she began. "Ibrahim Traoré didn't just whisper to me," she said softly. "He reminded me and reminded all of us what it means to be human." She paused, eyes filling with tears as the audience leaned forward, breathless. "He told me, never forget that your voice is the hope of people who may never meet you, but who believe in you. Don't let them down." Her lips quivered as she slowly unfolded the letter. "And this," she whispered, holding it up, "was what he left for me." The hall fell into complete silence. Cameras zoomed in, catching every flicker of emotion as she prepared to share the words that had already altered her life. Latifah's voice cracked as she began to read. "To the sister whose light crosses oceans, you may never walk the streets of Burkina Faso, but your courage already does. Remember, every time you laugh, a child here believes tomorrow can be brighter. Don't carry your gift for yourself alone. Carry it for the world." Her tears flowed freely now, her hands shaking. She looked into the camera and whispered, "He told me the world needs my light and yours too." Gasps filled the room. Some in the audience were openly crying. Social media timelines overflowed with people posting clips, saying they felt as if the words were written directly to them. In Ouagadougou, thousands gathered in the central square to watch the live broadcast. Families embraced, strangers held hands. For a moment, borders and differences melted away. Latifah lowered the letter slowly, whispering through tears, "These words, they belong to all of us." The following day, newspapers and TV channels around the globe carried the same headline, "The Whisper That Touched the World." Messages poured in from every corner of the globe. Parents said their children slept with hope in their hearts. Young people wrote that they finally believed their lives mattered. Queen Latifah and President Traoré appeared briefly together one last time that week. No speeches, no grand gestures, just a simple embrace that spoke louder than any words. When asked later why he had chosen those words, Traoré simply replied, "Because the world needs more people who heal, not just who entertain, and she is one of them." That moment became more than viral. It became a movement, a call for kindness, courage, and light. My dear viewers, if this story moved you, let's keep this light alive. Hit that like button to spread the hope. Subscribe so you never miss stories that touch the soul. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us how this moment touched you. Your words could inspire someone else tonight. Together, let's keep shining.